And welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub. And today we have in the studio one of the nicest, most generous, genuine, hustling actors I've ever met. Someone I look up to and admire for his ability to get shit done. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Jeremy Birchall.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Rob, for having me.
A pleasure.
And thanks for putting up with our little renovations as we've brought to life the studio and our new location. And you're basically you are the first guest here.
Am I?
Yeah.
It looks really great.
Thanks.
Really, really great.
It's
and you know what? It actually feels good too.
Yeah?
Yeah, it really does.
It's got a nice vibe.
It feels good. It does.
Yeah. Like the Death Star in Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, it's not quite finished, but it can destroy worlds. I think it's it's got a few panels missing, but it's ready to go. You know?
Yep. I think it could create worlds as well.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll create one today.
No. Hope so.
So Rob, what's new with you, mate?
What is new? Well, I just want to say, hey, Jeremy, good to see you.
Yes.
And reconnect, because we go way back.
We do.
Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't realize when Steve mentioned that we had Jeremy coming on, I didn't put two and two together and realize that it was you, Jeremy Birchall. So, yeah, good to see you. And we were just talking off air, and I feel like this is going to be a great little chat because I think we're vibing on the same sort of stuff.
I think we've, in that time of our lives too, we're resonating at that same age.
Age and stage.
Yeah. A new rites of passage, which is always happening, but keeping consciously aware of that rites of passage is the key. And I think that's, as you said, we're vibing at that same point, seeking answers, seeking questions, and wanting to talk about things that are going on internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you actually happen to be someone who I really had to talk to when Rob and I decided to do an episode about UFO disclosure, which has just recently come out.
Yep.
And you might not have had a chance to hear it yet, but I thought our discussion with you could be further on from that, because you've been listening to, reading and absorbing information like David Icke and many, many other things over the years. Mm-hmm. Where do you sit on what's going on at the moment?
Interesting, because I feel I've actually taken more of a back seat recently, because I think I absorbed so much information around about 2002. And I really delved into a lot of reading and I suppose listening and watching conspiracy theories and opinions of other people. And it was a lot of information to sift through. And also I felt like I didn't know what to do with that information. So I talked to people, and their reactions towards me were quite extreme at times. Either they glaze over and just think I'd gone into the bad place.
Into the bad place.
Well, when you start talking about reptilians and all that sort of stuff. And I want to preface actually this conversation as I think where I've arrived to is that I resonate with some opinions that feel true, but I respect other people's views. But I have more questions than I did back then when I started formulating ideas. So I think I'll probably pose them more as questions than come up with statements. That what I believe and what resonates with me now.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
Yeah, because you mentioned 2002, around that period. Was there something that was speaking to you, or was there just a general curiosity, or was there some sort of realization or epiphany or aha moment that prompted you?
Yeah, I think two things that motivate people is love and trauma. And if they can happen at the same time, it can be a really pivotal point. And it happened for me at that time. The love and trauma happened at the same time. So I lost somebody close to me, and somebody I loved at the time finished. So I was at a crossroads, and I realized I hadn't fully manifested into my manhood at that point. And it's happening for men a lot later, closer to their 30s now, that we are going through the new rites of passage, because what we go through education, then we go through more education, and then we used to be the OE, used to be another rites of passage. I never did the OE at that time. I went on to higher education and then on to a career, and I felt that my career didn't harbour for me to fully grow up. I was busy being busy, and the trauma of love lost at that point forced me to stop and think, and I thought, what's the best thing that I can do to develop? So I bought a plane ticket to go to America on my own, because I never traveled on my own. So I thought, I want to check out if something I really want. I wanted to be an actor. Is this something I really want to be in this place? Is this something I've always dreamed about? And it answered some questions for me, and it started a journey into self-discovery and the world other than our world.
Prior to you leaving and physically taking the physical journey to the US, where were you at in your acting career?
So 2001, I'd got the biggest job that I'd got the Riverworld movie and series.
Right.
So I got the pilot for Sci-Fi Channel. So I got one of the 4 leads in that. And that was going to be, I signed a contract for 6 series.
Yeah.
And then they paid me some money to wait for a year whilst we waited to see if the pilot happened. So there are a couple of pivotal things that happened in my life.
That's interesting, though. You're sort of waiting and not sure about what's going on.
I think they call it a holding fee. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a holding fee.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to sort of to sit and wait for this amazing opportunity to happen. And I think 2 things that I could have pivoted. What's that? Perpetuated? No.
Eventuated or?
Propelled me. That's the word.
Yeah.
Propelled me into I would have perceived a bigger realm of acting. Was a film called Heaven that I did for Miramax straight out of drama school, and then the Columbine shooting happened in the States, and they pulled the movie out of the States because the characters that we had went through a rampage and killed people.
Oh, no.
And then at the Sci-Fi Channel sold at the same point that series was made. It was made with Atlantis, who'd made crime scene investigation. So it was quite a big company. And yet again, that they pulled the series out. And I have had to be more philosophical about why I didn't take that journey further. Like I haven't gone to the next
why
level.
the universe didn't allow it to happen.
Yeah,
because it looked like
maybe.
you were set.
You were on the precipice. It was almost like you were there at the beginning, and you got to think back to that period of time in New Zealand. How was the film industry? How was the acting industry compared to now? Right, was still in its infancy.
Yes,
and there wasn't that real connection to, the US or Hollywood. There weren't many paths to take. So for you to be at that point in time, I could imagine that you were. Yeah. Is this something that will propel me into this life? Will this feed?
That's right.
My creative urges, my soul, whatever it is, and you would have been quite young as well. So that's quite a big decision.
How old would you say you were at that time?
At Riverworld time, I was 28.
Okay,
so
but still, like at that point,
that's young.
And in that year, or in the early 2000s, before we were hit with a world of Netflix and so forth.
Yes, it was.
That was the traditional route to success.
Yes, this was going to be the next Pacific Renaissance TV show that was going to, take me to other places around the world to work. But I'm happy it didn't.
Really?
Right.
On one level, I think I needed to develop as a human being to give other things back. I might have arrived at that place still, but I don't think I'd be the same person that I am now. I wouldn't have met my wife probably. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be sitting here. So I think we
attract some big stars.
I know.
To be fair.
Well,
come on, bro.
Well,
I was just trying to figure out how do we interpret that.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is that I just read an article. No, I just read an article recently about the guy that's playing the lead in The Lion King, who they've cast, who was doing it around the world, and he came back to New Zealand to drive trucks, and they've just pulled him out of obscurity again. I'm like you, Rob, and you, Stephen, who hustle. I have never sort of
You hustle the best though.
but you know what I mean? Like I know that my decisions inform my next role or the next thing that I need to do. So I just keep working and doing things.
Well, I hope this next, because I'm busting to ask this, and in fact, I've probably wanted to ask this of you before I ever had a podcast.
Okay, ask it to me live on air, or we're doing
live
recording
inside somebody's iPhone right now. How is it, or did those experiences which lacked certainty ultimately, did they inform you to get your shit together to own a home? You're the first person I know of around my age group who got their act together and bought a home, and I just went, look at that. I'm still pissing around with stupid things, and this guy got his shit together and bought a home in his 20s, I think, wasn't it?
25, yeah.
Look at that, man. Far out. And in this day and age, because it's so hard to get into the property market, you made the right move at the right time.
I did.
What made you do that? Were you always set to do something like that?
Look, I think, I come back down to objectives, and I think fear and security were those things. I was told early on when I was doing my dance training in small town New Zealand that you will never make a career out of this till after 5 o'clock in the amateurs. So there was a part of me that wanted to prove that wrong. So yes, I made some money in my career and TV.
Did you just have a series of good gigs, or was it consistent gigs? Weekly sort of things?
I had some big paying stuff, and I had a consistency to keep working. Like I was doing promos, and I was doing radio work, and I was doing dance work. I was doing a lot of work.
You were hustling, and
totally
you
hustling,
have to be, you have to play many roles.
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's
many
right.
hats, that's right.
Many hats.
And as you know now, whilst you do that sort of stuff, Rob, it informs all the decisions that have brought you to this moment. A thinker, a questioner, a person that will say yes or no if you need to. And I've got better at saying no, because I said yes a lot in my 20s, and I did a lot of things. Like I thought I should write a book called Muff, and it's actually an acronym for Man Under Fun Fur, because I think I did every suit character around there. I did Yogi Bear, I did Barney the Dinosaur, I did B2.
Man Under Fun Fur.
Because
the true story of Muff.
Because yes, I bought a house at 25, and I've been in mortgage 20 years now. It's a lot less now, and we've moved, and the reason we've been able to move is because of that decision.
Have you paid it off? You still got a wee ways to go.
No, we made a step up. We got a small mortgage, but we've stepped up our property,
Right.
So we've got more of it. But the fear and the security of actually having a normal life. I looked at a lot of people around me, and they were struggling, and they didn't have direction. And I really wanted what was normal, what I grew up with, which was family and home. And if I projected myself 20 years from now, I wanted to go, do I want to be able to buy a car, pay my insurance and all that sort of stuff? So in this decision right now, that's why I made the decision.
And you made the right choices.
Paid my student loan off at the time and bought a house.
I struggled with the fact that, and by the way, congratulations on paying your student loan off too.
Thanks.
Because it's something I'm still dealing with, but and a lot of people will be for a long, long time. Mine ended up at its highest point at $90,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that's why I'm still, cracking away at it. But I did pretty well whilst I was working for 7 years in the dental industry. And then that's where I got all my act together with stuff and property. But I tell you, mate, I looked at the life I was leading about a decade ago, and I went, this isn't right. I want to be an actor, and I want to do creative things. And a lot has changed about my philosophy towards this industry now. But I also wanted at some point to be a dad and have a home and provide for a kid and have that kid feel normal and not like he or she was living in poverty, And so I had to really reassess everything I was trying to do as an actor, which was putting that life at jeopardy, really. So I had to make a bit of a U-turn for a while and then come back to this. But here we are, and things are going well.
I think that's exceptional. That's a success story.
Yeah, right.
Because I think in what you've just said there is no element of self-pity. You acknowledge in yourself that you wanted these things and you needed to make change,
Mm.
and you made the change to move towards those things that you want.
Mm.
So, yeah, I applaud you for that decision making. As tough as
Thanks,
it might
man.
feel, and at times you go,
As
"Should I?"
tough as it felt at the time,
felt at
taking a
times.
full-time job,
Of course,
when you want to be
of
an
course.
actor. Oh, that was tough.
And
Yeah.
I've lived in the UK
Yeah.
for 2 years as well, and I didn't do much over there other than other things. I watched other people act, and I worked backstage. I worked as a paintball marshal. I did things just to pay the exceptional amount of rent there. But, oh my God, the things that inform you, your work that informed you to this moment now, to really enjoy it and love what you're doing right now, you can say, man, I've had some really shit days, but you can recognize the good days.
Actually, the other thing too is I feel that, and I think it's the right move for people who aren't exactly where they want to be and they're trying or waiting for that right moment to come, is to do things that are adjacent to what you do. That's okay too, because you're still using your skill set. So when in that particular job for 7 years, I was giving presentations to groups and I felt like I was being an actor.
Interesting.
And I would put together corporate videos for the company. I was like, cool, I'm using my video editing skills. I feel like I'm being the actor in this company.
Yep.
So, yeah, it helped to feel like I was close to using the equipment that I own and bought as seeing myself through that entire time as an actor when everyone else saw me as a manager at a company.
Interesting.
But I wouldn't see myself that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just quietly listening to what you guys were saying, and what came up for me was you said it right at the start about love and trauma, or pain and suffering versus joy and happiness, or love and fear. I think we're always operating within those dynamics as a human being. And, from my perspective, I think you can relate. If you wanted to choose that path of becoming an actor, well, what's that going to serve you? What's the things that are going to feed your soul? And it might be freedom, it might be the creativity, it might be the connection, it might be traveling, it might be a job that is not seen as the 9 to 5. There might be excitement, adventure, surrealness, whatever. And if those dreams or hopes get dashed, then that's going to cause pain and suffering. If you have to give up on a dream, and I think we've all gone through a sense of that and realized that, hang on a minute, we've spoken about this. Can this sustain me in the real world, and can this support my human to live? And yeah, I think there are sacrifices and compromises that we always make, but I feel like we get caught up in this destination happiness where we always think, well, if I get that next role, then I'm going to be happy, successful. When I buy that home, well, then I'm happy and successful. When I get married. And I think that's just how we're wired up. But it
If
never.
this, then that.
Yeah. I'll be happy when or if this happens. And I think it's just part of the human condition. How do we escape that constant setup where the next success determines our happiness? Because we celebrate that all the time, don't we?
Add to what you're saying is that I agree with you, and I think putting that in your mind's eye, that if you have conversations with yourself quite often that I'm going to feel good when I've done this, or I'm going to reward myself when I've gone through this process, you're going through a version of hell, because you're only going...
Oh, it's so true. Yeah.
You are, because you're future tensing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're preventing happiness.
I think ironically, training as actors, we were told to be in the moment, but we're always working with the future tense on a personal level, is that when I get this role, or when I get this form of success, or I found this the most isolating, traumatic job at times that I could have probably chosen, and unpacking the reasons why I ended up here has been my biggest task.
Yeah.
And it's a nurture over nature. I think I was nurtured here into where I am as a creative. And that's just that where I was born at the right time, where I was born, and the time that I was born in the 70s and going through education in the 80s.
Yeah. So I actually found, gosh, it's so true what you say about going through a personal hell and the struggle And in relation to what Rob said too, I had to ask myself, why did I want to do this? And I had to accept that on some level, I wanted to be an actor. There was a small percentage because it met a need to be seen and loved.
I resonate with that totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going to say
Absolutely.
it was the biggest component because it wasn't, but it was a drawing factor. It's like the kids today who just want to be TikTok famous, or if an actor acts because they just want to be famous, it's a very poor choice. And I looked at that and went, well, this just isn't right. And there's a part of me that wants that. So I'm going to just sort of kick that into touch and work differently here. And 3 years at drama school helped kick the shit out of that too. And it helped in a positive way because then I started to get joy from acting, not because of how acting might bring me recognition. And that's great if it does, and it's cool if it earns you a living because we need that. But because it didn't really bring me much of a living, certainly for most of the time I've been acting, then it you have to love acting for the connection you have with other actors, or for the telling of a story, or for something quite appropriately altruistic as opposed for self-serving gains. And that's when I formulated the theory that if I could never earn money again from acting, would I still want to be an actor? Because surely that would if I posed that question to myself and I said, shit, no, I want this to make me a shit ton of money and get me famous, and that's why I'm doing it, then I'd go, oh, well, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And so I went, no, well, I still want to act if I was never going to earn money from it again. And then I proceeded to go and do a series of theatre shows for Sapphire Theatre and with Blair Strang and we did Morning Star, and I got some really great lead roles. And we were really careful as a theatre company to look after the younger guys and to pay people. But he and I had great jobs, and we just didn't pay ourselves at all. Yep. So we never took any money for that. And I mean, I'm proud to say that was the case. But more importantly, I got to thoroughly enjoy the connection with those other actors and scenes with my favourite people and perform with them and turn up at the theatre and do all that stuff. And I thought, yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life. I could do this and still not be paid, and I'd be so happy. So I'm glad I ended up on that side of the ledger, because the truth was there was that little demon in me that initially, I remember saying to a girlfriend once, she said, why do you want to do this? And I said, I want to be famous. And I will never forget for the rest of my life the embarrassment that memory brings me.
Interesting. I just want to, No, you go.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I remember you mentioning that story.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And that's like, I interpret that as you needed self-love, you needed recognition. There's an aspect of you.
Yeah.
And that fame was going to provide that. And by saying that to your then ex-girlfriend.
In my very, very, very early 20s.
Yeah, it would make you, it would somehow fulfill that, because you weren't nurturing, you weren't feeling that within you.
Yeah.
You weren't providing that for yourself. And I've had that similar thing, man. For me, it was such a big journey of the self-worth of, if I got the trappings, then it would give me some sort of status or some sort of, put it this way, I lived my life externally for external gratification. I didn't realize how much I was in there.
Yep.
And it's like, your Instagram or your TikToks, you're getting that constant external gratification. And you don't realize how, I guess, detrimental, how hurtful that is for your well-being, because you're playing this game that you will never win. And it explains to me why, because people often talk about celebrities or people who have it all that take their own lives.
Oof.
And it's a big one. And I would have these discussions with people, and I said, well, firstly, you cannot ever understand what someone's going through on an internal level. It's their journey. So yes, you can have all the money in the world, you can have all the fame. We can name these people. We all know celebrities.
Yeah.
And I think it was Chester from, forget the band now,
Is this someone that took their life?
Yeah, yes, a singer. Forgive me.
I can't think.
Yeah, very well known.
I'll look it up,
Yeah, sorry.
Rock band.
Rock band, yeah.
Yeah.
I was more
2 years ago?
interested, a couple of years ago. But he said in a radio interview that, having success doesn't give you a free pass to the pain and suffering. And that always stuck with me because, it won't protect you from those things,
Is it Chester Bennington?
You got it, yeah.
Okay. Phoenix.
From Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park, of course, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But yeah, and where was I going with this? Yeah, there's this external, and that's why the trappings of success, you can feel horrible. You can go through a living hell because you haven't dealt with the internal healing and the trauma and the stuff that's going on within, which cannot be healed from distraction, from drinking, from all the addictive behaviors. And this is just my take on it. You have to create this space within you and do the inner journey and go into those dark places and shine a light in there. And inner transformation is psychological, and then the situational. You can change jobs, you can change careers. That's situational change. That is change appearing to be making a difference, but it's what happens within. So I just wanted to.
No.
Yeah, that's
share
nice.
that.
I'll just keep that conversation going because what I hear from the both of you is things that resonate with myself about the journey of change in regards to language. Because I too, if you ask the younger 20-something or 19-year-old why I wanted to get into it, fame and fortune definitely was a motivator. So trauma brought me to the arts, and that's because I grew up with learning disability, which was later diagnosed in my 30s as dyslexia. So growing up in the 80s, the options and the golden trifecta of education was accountancy, lawyer, doctor. That's it. It's the right.
Yeah, I never heard it as the golden trifecta.
These are not great things for people who have dyslexia.
Yeah,
but if you did not succeed within the sciences and the English and that, you were said, well, the creative industries is a place that you would really thrive in, and they generally believed it. But actually, what they were doing is moving people, if they did not succeed there, to the creative industry. So we've got a raft of problems here within, especially this country, of a non-nurtured industry of people around my age who also had learning disabilities, who struggled at school, who were almost forced in the direction of the arts, not supported through the process of leaving school. There was nowhere for them to go apart from maybe Toi Whakaari, or they were going off to do design and all these things. So yes, mental health is rife, and a lot of dear friends have lost the battle. But I have found it the most isolating industry, where I think from the outside it looks like we have connections and we hang out and do that sort of stuff. It's not true at all.
No, because because we're not all turning up to the same workplace every day.
No,
we're all often at home hoping that we get a gig, which only a very small percentage of parts are available.
Yeah, and we keep ourselves available. And then I had the two things going on there, that my short-term memory scenario is not great. So the transition from 35mm to HD was massive for me, where the auditioning process in 35mm was a lot more like sixth form certificate. It was a bit more like a process of, you get the audition a week out, you get chance to work on it, you get chance to bring thought and character to it. What we get now is 24-hour turnaround with a monologue, because they've got the mentality of HD, and that is, we can shoot 3 cameras at once, speed, time, money, let's make it. So it's left us poor actors with dyslexia behind, where we have to come in, and it's not like the States, because when I was in the UK, I'd go and read scripts sitting at a table, going through the first process. But
that concept is so foreign to us in New Zealand,
isn't it? It's just bullshit. And I'll say that on air. Yeah, table.
Please.
Well, it's what's expected in this country is unrealistic in regards to, they want us to give up our time. Which if my agent called me now and said, look, you've got an audition tomorrow, I'd be fucking shit bricks till tomorrow.
Right.
Because you know what? 2 things are going on. I've got to learn it, and this is my opportunity.
I got to say, that amazes me, that admission, because I look at you as quite a together, successful sort of a guy that doesn't blink an eyelid.
No, I am, because I'll just say, because this is the bullshit.
Yeah.
And it is bullshit for everybody, because what the expectation on people, because I'm in a position which I,
but you look like you wouldn't shit a brick, is what I'm saying.
No,
so
I
the
think it's just being honest
is so
honestly,
appreciated.
because you know what?
People need to hear it.
I'm saying no now because I don't want to put myself through the trauma. So as you said before in that conversation, I can't remember if we had it on air or on recording or off recording, is that I am part of the industry, but I'm not.
That's right, not of it.
I'm more a part of it. So the language, I just want to get where I think my point was across, is that the power of language is so much more important to me now at 47 years of age, is that we've got two things going on. It's the dichotomy of the tall poppy syndrome, where we can't use language like fame and fortune, because I saw you both mention the word fame, and immediately it was like, I'm immediately saying something that's got negative connotations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we reframe the word and saying, actually, with the recognition that I could get, the platform that I could create a lot of good for other people.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and also fortune, there is nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it.
There is nothing wrong with it, because if I do a lot of teaching at South Seas or Unitech and all that sort of stuff in the Actors program, and I say that you're here for fame and fortune is not a negative thing at this stage of your age.
Well, can I just jump in? Hold that thought for a second, because I've been also reflecting on how I must, for the record, because this all goes on the record, and I mentioned that story too, like that I had that experience once before, Rob, right? You remember me telling you I said to the girlfriend, I want to be famous.
Yeah.
I want to go on record to give my younger self just a little bit of a break.
You should.
And the little bit of break is this. I remember that memory and saying that with horror, right? But if I put myself in the shoes of my younger self at that time, I was just a young man full of testosterone, looking for adventure and happiness and to explore my world and to travel. And when I said, I want to be famous, I was saying all of that.
I agree. I totally agree.
And I wasn't so blinkered and dull to not have had the kind of thoughts I've ultimately had, but at the time I had my thoughts on other things. But it took time for me to, like if you'd said, Steve, as a 22-year-old kid, do you think that fame and fortune is really your ego saying that, or is that worthy of something why you should pursue the arts? And I'd go, oh, yeah, I guess that's my ego. I would have known, but that's not where I was at when I said it. I said it as if to say, this is the adventure I want to go on, and that's okay.
But I want to just say to you that I want those things too, and your younger self wants them, because it's primal. To be famous and to be rich is primal, because it's about procreation with the best. If you are famous, you meet your best match. Right?
Right. Agreed.
It's primal. And when you're in your early 20s to 30s, you seek out, and when you get to our age, you seek in. So you understand, you drop the pebble in you drop the pebble in the pond, and you create a waveform. If I have a bigger platform, it doesn't matter if you're in politics, it doesn't matter if you're standing in front of crowds, it is primal to want fame and fortune. And anyone who sits in these classes and say that's not a motivating factor is lying to you on some level, because we want to create influence with our work. We want to do that. And the power of language is where I'm at. They call it spelling for a reason. It's because you spell with words, right?
Heard that before.
Yeah. We are casting spells.
Like everything you just said to me resonated in my being. I feel into that, and my cells just start dancing. I go, yep. But you're talking about the language as in, can you just explain further, because you were going down that path of the languaging and the spell.
Yeah, so I work in the voice industry quite a lot. So I listen to a lot of people. More so than I do a lot of voice work myself, I listen to a lot of people with their voices. So I listen to intention quite a lot. And I listen to people do character work, and we work with intention with the voice. And I would say I was born with a gift that I've only just understood, that I can hear things and see things that other people can't see and hear, for the reason that I'm in the industry that I am in. It's just, I don't know how to put that into words. It's just the way it is.
So how do you use that gift? How does that gift assist you?
all it is in its most base form is that feels right or that feels wrong. It's on a subconscious level, and you just tune into your subconscious and go, I believe that, or I do not believe that.
Gotcha.
And therefore, or that makes me feel a certain way, good or bad, because I'm dealing with negative energies, or I'm dealing with, so the resonance is really, really important to me, and it's been part of my life on a subconscious level for a lot longer than it's been on a conscious level. So I brought all that consciousness now to the subconscious. I think I said that correct. Is that the intention and the spelling of words is magic, and literally it's magic. Our names, Rob and Steve, resonate, and Jeremy resonates on a level. So you say my name, it immediately conjures a thought, it brings you back to a scenario, it puts you in a place. So whether the voice has the wave in it, and that tells you a backstory of the person, or that as you perceive that I come across as confident, and I'm not. I think as I've got older, I've just become more authentic. Just as I'm not afraid to just say how I feel, voice my feelings.
Jeremy,
which is confidence.
Can I just interject? That's the exact feeling I got when I first saw you. When you entered, was authenticity.
That's lovely.
Yeah. I mean, now that you bring it up, that's the feeling. Connecting. Totally. And I thought, wow, that energy's that's what that energy is. This is fascinating.
Because we all based ourselves on the ego, what we talked about before. That's important. The ego is a very old word. It's a very old word, and it's not in modern context.
No.
The ego is almost controlled by the demon from without, the external forces. It can be manipulated, the ego, into many factions in society.
Sure.
And
it gets expressed in so many factions of society. I mean, you can see it.
And it's on the first two rungs of food and sex. Food and sex, food and sex. It's about feeding and sex. That's what the ego wants, those things, and recognition.
Is the ego, because I have this conversation with friends about particularly people who want to become more spiritual or become more enlightened or want to awake more. They want to suppress the ego. They talk about silencing the ego. I've always had a different take on that in terms of the ego is important for our existence, and it's there.
Yes, it is.
And there's different ways of dealing. It's almost like integrating your ego and finding a relationship with it rather than all being led by it, but it is useful. So I've changed my relationship to ego as I've grown older.
I think it's essential.
It's essential.
I think it's our interface with the world.
You can't kill it, and
it's definitely connected to your senses.
Yeah,
ego. You find people that are in the army and that sort of stuff. They're very egocentric in regards to, this is what I need, and I need this, and I'm going to root this, and I'm going to kill this, and I'm going to do that.
It has a particular energy as well.
And it's essential to survival.
Yeah.
Because it's connected to procreation, of actually spreading our seed with the best mate, alpha male, and it's essential for us to keep growing as humanity. That's why the young need to have children. And therefore also to protect the community is that you need to know how to fight, not flight. So therefore there is, it's way more primal than we give it credit. And we think of it as a negative thing. It can be destructive for sure, because it will do anything. It will lie to get what it wants to be dominant.
Sure. Do you know the origin of the word ego, or
I think
how it originated?
Was it id and ego?
I'd have to go back to Manly P. Hall, because I think he's one of the greatest American philosophers. But I think it translates, I believe, just it's not of oneself in regards to. Yeah, have a quick look.
Yeah, I'm just really I'm really big on the origins.
Or it's a god, I think.
So does it have some religious,
it's a Latin root
historical?
Word.
The Latin root word ego means I. This Latin root is the word origin of a fair number of English vocabulary words, including ego and egotistical. The Latin root word ego is easily recalled through the English word ego.
But it goes back way further.
Someone with
than
a
that.
big ego is always thinking about number one, that is himself and how great he is.
No, it goes back further than that. I'm pretty sure it goes
think it
back
would.
into Greek times. I remember a conversation that Manly P. Hall had about it, and also he talks about more of the esoteric way of talking about the external spiritual world connected through us.
I was going to ask you that question. Can that ego, I mean, over time, the egoic, energetic, however, the field, the resonance, whatever that is, can that energy be distorted? And how do you think does that egoic, energetic expression, how do you think that's playing out in the world today? It's quite a big question.
Sorry. Because I'd only be able to bring it back down to myself.
You're only here for the small topics, bro. So
how's it playing out? Let me sort of strip down the question.
I know, it's sort of a question that I'm asking myself because we were talking about how it can be expressed. And for me, it came to mind those American football movies, but about American sports.
Yeah.
And even sports in this country and how the ego is very much dominant,
and
or the corporate world.
We definitely celebrate ego.
In that arena anyway.
I think we can have this conversation on multiple levels because
Sure.
we could actually say where are we in 2001 in the grand scheme of timelines in regards to are we in a era of Kali or Mars? Are we in the era of war in what our objective of humanity's learning is? Because if we go back to the times of the Alexandrian libraries, which were burnt down, where it was a time of great learning and renaissance around spirituality and the Greeks and all that sort of stuff, we are not in that time now. And even where we are from, are we in a technological stage of life? We were 15 to 20 years ago, but we're not now. Technology is not the driver now. It is truth. Because the first thing when we see it in the digital domain, when you bring it up, and I did the same, therefore, is it true? We don't go, is this piece of information, therefore I'm reading it real? Or what am I seeing is visually true? We actually, first and foremost, actually need to question that. We didn't before. We just took information, and also we are living in a world of, I wouldn't say too much information, but I'm told and taught to care about what's happening down the road in Tauranga where my ancestors didn't. So therefore, if I'm told that the little village down the road is burning, I can have that information within the live feed, and therefore should I care about it? Because is that natural for us to care about it because it's not in our physical environment?
Yeah.
But it immediately puts us in a fight or flight scenario.
Or the news feed of the world, the 24/7 news cycle stresses the shit out of us.
I would say it's not meant for us.
We didn't previously know about anything outside of a 20K radius.
No, that's exactly right. So now what we're doing is going for this truth that I'm getting first and foremost. Yes, we have the technology that has been developed. We have the digital domain. We have ways to record. It's just bigger, flashier, and faster. And therefore, the information that I'm receiving, is it true or is it fake news? Elements of it could be true. Okay, what elements am I going to take that are true? Therefore, how does this information affect me? Therefore, now we've got two things going on. Will I be affected by this? Will I allow myself to be affected by this? Or shall I just become numb to this and not read it? So we're in a new paradigm of information. Sensitive but numb. And I don't know what the outcome of this is. I feel for the kids because they don't know anything else for this, because we grew up in a time where we didn't know too much outside our circumference. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have these things that could affect us on such a primal level, fight or flight. Therefore, as we talked about before, the other frequencies that are happening, not when we're talking about word, I'm hearing it. Oh my God, the blah, 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 and the news. I don't watch it. Because I'm hit with a frequency that is trying to actually hit me. To go into the fear factor, which actually
and
takes
it's cried wolf too often.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But is it orchestrated? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's orchestrated.
I was going to say, well, I mean, we've talked about the mass manipulation of mind control, which is your consciousness, which is how you relate to this world. And it creates a certain feeling, fear. It's all fear. It's the fear that's being driven through these means, through the technology. And we are at a point in time where this didn't exist when we were growing up. So I feel this is what I'm sensing in the network the people that I listen to or follow, is that there is this apprehension of the consciousness, and we can, if we want to go there are reasons behind that when you look beyond the surface.
Mm-hmm. Did you say the apprehensions of the consciousness?
Of our consciousness, because that's how you can control people. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's how you engage with your consciousness, is your existence, how you're living some sort of reality. So,
Rob, is that for the purpose of generating a certain frequency amongst human energy fields?
Possibly, yeah. A collective
sort of
consciousness. Yeah. There could be.
So are we talking about to the benefit of spiritual entities that like the lower frequency shit?
Sure. It's all putting us into that fear mode or fear.
It's very simple to do.
State.
It's really easy to do.
And it's very obvious. It's very obvious when you detune from the mainstream media, the channels, and you really just feel into it. And you can, if you're very sensitive, you can actually get sick. You can actually feel it. And you go into, we talk about this all the time about energy and frequency and resonance. When you go into nature, when you go into that space, it's a completely different state. It's a completely different connection. But I feel like there's this splitting of the people that are fully immersed in that and entranced by it all, and the feeding into it and perpetuating, and the people that are aware of it and witnessing it and are waking up to it, and now wanting to get back to a true, authentic, humanity. What does it mean to be a human? What are we?
Yeah.
What are we as a species? And is this technological, artificial construct that is playing out?
I think I feel for humanity in the fact that I think our subconscious objective is quite clear, and that what the muddle that we're in with everything that you have said would be cleared up quite quickly, because the pursuit, I think, of communication and the pursuit of knowledge, and I mean true knowledge, and that is knowing, word derivative, is that if we were given a clear picture of who we are and what is God, words, I'm using words, and they can be construed as anything you want them to be. Therefore, the frequency that we're talking about could be cleared up quite easily. But I cannot speak from my perception and reality that I know. For I do not know. I have not met anybody online or in person that knows about who the hell we are and why we are here and where we are going. I've not, in my 47 years of existence, have not. Therefore, what it does is we've created a real problem, and we have a real problem. Whether that was lost 10,000 years ago, and we knew who we are, if we were, a spliced species, or we are, anything.
Alien monkey hybrid.
Potentially, yeah.
Sure.
And if someone came down, the first thing and they said, this is who you are, we'd say, well, is that true? Because that's the first thing you ask our ancestors, they'd go, really? But we wouldn't. We're in a state of unfortunate pessimism. We do not at the moment think optimistically, for therefore we go, I have to therefore sift through the truth to find a truth.
So if we don't know who we are historically, because we don't actually know, then we have to look within to feel out what we are.
But why? The question is, Stephen, why? Why do we have to do that? Why were we not, in this existence, given a clear path from here to there? And therefore, that is the bigger question. And therefore, the only two questions is it designed that way, or is it kept from us? And therefore, yes, if it's kept from us, we can go down that path. We can go way down the rabbit hole.
So if it's kept from us, we are the cattle in the field that doesn't know any better?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We might have made that choice to have it so we could have this experience in three-dimensional so that we can actually have an experience in three-dimensional time, which is called the trauma of beginning and end in time space. For therefore, we have made that decision to not have a sense of who we are,
because I've spoken about this as
this
well.
Is great stuff.
This is so good. What is our reality? The fundamentals again. Do we just have amnesia, like what you were saying? We don't have a remembrance. But then there are people that say they do have a remembrance, but that just may be their perception of what their experience is. And so, like you said, I've never encountered someone with the definitive truth, because we're all having this experience. There's 7 billion of us
for 80 years,
and to what end? To what end? Yeah, and it's like, well,
the Christ consciousness of what people talk about, and I've met a lot of enlightened people, but therefore they've never demonstrated or shown to me that they have a face of God. If I could use just that analogy, the face of God or the face of our creation, therefore I can find truths in reality. Definitely find truths. We can measure. We can definitely measure. We know that there are definitive measurements in our three-dimensional reality. Yeah. There are things that numbers and in our space-time continuum actually generate. We know there's 0 to 10. I'm not saying they're just words that we've created, but we can measure from here to there. We know that if we put this and this and measure this together, we get this outcome. So if
certain laws, you're thinking?
Yeah, I think
certain
if we talk about laws? Like words,
well,
Akashic records, if we talk about the universe of the Akashic records, is that I've talked about this online. I have one theory, and it's not true potentially, and that it is all one mathematical equation split into infinite. And this existence right now is just the one possibility of all of that. So the singularity of God did not know itself without splitting into every mathematical equation to have its existence within the sphere of the universe.
That's right, we did talk about this.
So with sacred geometry, we know that exists, and within the measurements of sacred geometry and the Fibonacci sequencing is that the Fibonacci sequence is in nature, it's in its macrocosm to microcosm. So therefore, that potentially perceivably is a truth of knowledge. That's why the Freemasons and the secret societies and the mystery schools would talk about sacred geometry and the pyramids and why resonance was important. So we can measure waves of frequencies, we can see them in sound, and we can replicate them as well. And we know that within nature, birds, if they set off a certain frequency, a wave will, attract their like.
Yeah.
And therefore we know that certain frequencies will make people sick.
Yeah.
So within the paradigm we're in at the time zone at the moment, which is perceivably in our head, we are God. We are a equation of God. We are experiencing this period of time within a timeline, and it's already played out. It's already happened. It doesn't matter.
Because time is a construct.
Yes, and the concept of good and evil is all the possibilities needing to happen. So this is another thing, is that three-dimensional reality is duality. So Carl Jung also said that for us to perceive beyond duality, which is what I think, I read it many years ago, 7 Sermons to the Dead, but it's the pleroma. And we can talk about it as a word, but it's all or nothing. If you think about eternity, we can't think beyond it because it has. We can't, as humans, can only think that the universe has to end somewhere.
Well, it hurts my brain.
But you can't.
If God, if you take that Christian idea of, well, if God created the universe, what was before God?
Yeah.
As a kid, I remember thinking about that, and it just hurt my head.
Because who created God?
I can say it now, and I can go, but I actually I remember feeling into it so deeply once. I went, oh, my head. Oh,
so there's a truth.
There's a weirdness that
I'm
hits
same.
you.
You're the same too. So there's a truth we can measure, and there's duality. Yeah. So we know that all our stories, and we talk about the 7 stories.
This is if you like, a dimension of contrasting of light and dark. Of
the universe
how do we
is
describe
set up. The universe of contrasting expressions.
That's it. That's what I was
hot
saying.
and cold. There's high and low. There are the two extremes. There's the dualistic nature of everything, high and low, up and down, good and bad. There's
Yin and yang.
Yeah, there's the yin and yang. There's those two there's the alter ego to absolutely everything. So
without those opposites, we couldn't
all of
measure
humanity-
and experience.
Exactly.
All of humanity can agree on that. So therefore, it is a truth.
Yeah, it is a truth. It is a truth because we've all experienced that. You can
It's a
you
perceived
can measure
truth,
that.
I should say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a perceived truth.
Well, that's our perception of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Can I take?
But why?
Can I take you back to?
Wow.
Because we don't have the face of God, so therefore God created this for us, or we created this for us. For what purpose?
Can you define what you mean by the, or elaborate a bit more on what you mean by the face of God?
I mean, they're words. I mean, the energy, the place we come from, the place we go to, the place we exist within.
So I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Because some things are helpful to just check if we're using the same terms on the same page
Some
to head
people
in a
use
direction. Otherwise,
different
I've got
wording for the
because-
same thing.
Otherwise, I've got a lot of
Yahweh, or you know, it's
But otherwise, I've got a little bit of just checking in with you to see if I understand, right? But when you said, let's just go back a bit to when you said we don't know what we are, and and I said, like monkey, alien hybrid. And you go, yeah. But then it shifted gears quickly to like the face of God. So I just want to check. Let's say we don't know what we are physically. If we can agree on that, then what do you feel we are spiritually? And do you have a spiritual sense of this is what happens to you perhaps before or after life, or where are you at with that?
Okay.
How's your
well,
definition?
therefore, because I have an ego, because I am here born with one for survival.
Mm-hmm.
I have to battle with my ego and my spirit within the same question. So my ego, if I was to say definitively there's reincarnation, potentially my ego said that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So if I said that I am eternal as a spirit, potentially my ego told me that.
Yes.
For my ego would not allow me to think I don't go on.
Mm.
So Jeremy and the concept of when I am gone is not something I can perceive, because I cannot perceive what eternity or the mathematical equation of going on is. Therefore, yes, I believe there is energy, there is heat, there is cold, there are these things that we do not fully understand that they exist.
Whoa. yeah. Because the ego wants to survive. It'll do whatever it takes to. So for you saying that the ego might be telling me that, I'm eternal or I'm infinite, could be just ego wanting to say that
Yes,
as self-preservation.
because it's scared. It's afraid. Yeah.
But you talk about there is heat here. There is hot and cold. We sense things as well. Like our emotional body has certain levels, if you like. But I take it further. Like, what is this reality in terms of the planet we're on, in terms of the solar system, the sun, the greater aspect? Because we talk about as below, so above, so within, so without. In order for us to exist and thrive and be alive here, every living thing, we have to be on this planet, however you want to call it, to support life. But that must mean we have a direct connection to everything that exists because we're a part of it. Did you get my line of thinking? And then that asks the question what Stephen brought up. Like, I know we're physical beings having this experience, physical as in it seems tangible, but there's an aspect of our being that is non-physical, spiritual, which could be part of what I call the all-creating life force, or something that is intangible, the non-physical aspect. So I guess what I'm getting at is,
I think I understand the question. Just try.
I'm trying to, because it's such a huge
if there's a
topic.
question, you don't have to ask a question.
It's
Just
such a
make
huge
statement.
topic, but
I don't
I'm
know.
learning more and more to
Yeah.
connect to those aspects that are that I can't put a label to or to a word to, because then it kind of distorts it or diminishes it because you've labeled it. So I know it's a real hard concept, but it's the sense of just knowing that I'm a part of everything because I'm here, because I exist. And if I can get more in tune with those things and it feels right, then that's going to help me understand at least, or give me some peace and some comfort.
I think peace is the word you
Peace.
actually just landed on, which is what I wanted to sort of just add to what you said, is that there's a lot more questions at our age that we'll never find answers for. And what I've become better at doing is listening to what's happening around me, and trying to stay. I'm not going to be able to articulate this because there's no words for it, but is not happiness. It's a place of peace. The dichotomy of that is that to exist in society and interact with society is there's trauma in that because our ego keeps us there in the survival state. Therefore, the concept of leaving this planet, dying, will create trauma for others, will create hurt and sorrow for others. That really makes me sad. Therefore, those that find peace in being a monk or they being a hermit separate themselves from society. It's not the answer. Therefore, what they're trying to do is diminish the trauma. So therefore, their emotional, physical imprint in this world is not going to create great sadness. We have great sadness around death because therefore we do not have, therefore, like quote myself, a picture of God or where we've come from or where we're going to, because we're egocentric driven, that we feel we come here for a period of time, for this is our existence. You must make it matter. You must leave your legacy. It's all ingrained in our stories. The hero's journey is actually, is it a good thing? Is it? Is it a good thing? I mean, everything, you know.
Shit. I'm so glad you're here.
But the fact of the matter is, look at our 7 stories, and you'll probably find they're very ego-driven. And they're actually what we are probably at this stage, even just having this conversation beyond the hero's journey, is actually probably a new form of storytelling we don't even quite understand. And that is new stories that are about community and what the existence for we over me is. And these are what we're wrestling with at the moment in society. It's about, the ecology, the economy, nature versus us, and how we're trying to integrate with it. But we are just at its infancy of trying to, we're talking about understanding consciousness on all levels, that for the repercussion, the butterfly effect, for what I do has a result for many years on. There was never a conversation with my grandparents or anything like this. Throw it out the window. Trash. There. Now we're kind of fighting. We're in a fight. We're a fight with ourselves. It's a horrible scenario for ourselves.
And we're drawn. We are drawn to the drama vortex that's created in society. You see people getting so consumed by it and driven by the matrix is the only way to.
And how does that make you feel? It makes you feel sick and guilty.
It does. It disconnects you, I believe, to who we really are. And that was the question that we raised.
And you're told to care because you should care about the fire down the road. No, you shouldn't, because you know what? It's not happening to you.
Takes us back to that 20K radius.
It does, but therefore you should. If someone said to me, Jeremy, you should actually have empathy for those people. Should I? Because you know what? I'm being told about something that I should care about, but I wouldn't have known.
There was absolutely right. There were some notes that I was preparing for a future episode, and what came up for me was how much guilt is our own, or is it being perpetuated by religion, by what you were talking about, to feel so guilty.
Guilt is put upon us to affect us.
That is not our own doing or our own making, which keeps us in that low vibration state.
Because we have no concept of what we're meant to do here. We just live.
Yeah,
we don't.
We're making it up as we go along.
We're making it up as we go
literally, along. And that's as clear as you can get, because everyone, I don't care what they say, they're doing that.
Yes, they are.
They can be the most confident person in the world, but
you were told you have to go to school. Why? Okay.
Yeah, why?
Well, you would learn what you need to learn without going to school. You would learn how to survive, and you'd learn how to be within the community.
That was a traumatic experience for me, and I've talked about that, and I know why, because it was a program It's programming my mind, and that's exactly what was happening to my mind. It was suffering, and I figured that out. That was my experience.
You're lucky. You're lucky. You're lucky.
That's what set me on my path of what I.
A lot of people don't reflect on things, and so they don't. And
I had physical trauma from it. Like there was a year where I spent half the school role in bed sick from migraines.
And you're not a man that ever gets sick.
No, well that set me on my health and fitness journey. You know, but yeah, I joined the dots, and I thought, well, that's why. I kind of was too young to kind of figure it out, but intuitively I knew it. Yeah.
Well,
but I was so afraid.
You weren't directed to the things that you want to do in your spirit and you like.
No.
Yeah.
You're directed to what you are to be integrated into society that makes it function.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
will function on a commerce level. Commerce is Mercury. And Mercury, commerce is alchemy. So alchemy is what is happening. You were talking about the moon before.
Well, yeah,
so I'm going to diverge just a little bit. The moon exists here to keep the tides going. Therefore, the question is the moon natural? The moon has a purpose on the planet. If we have no moon, we have no life.
Is the moon natural? You mean that thing in the sky that doesn't rotate like any other?
Yeah, we'll get into. I'm going to go. I don't want to go too far down that path. Or does it resonate like a bell? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, as when they landed on it, but anyway, I don't want to go down that thing. But the fact of the matter is, for time and space, for what the moon, if it was here, it makes us live. So, is it a negative thing? Well, maybe living is a negative thing. I don't know. It's pretty painful at times, but
we have found use in having tides.
Yeah, so we have tides, we have movement, therefore we have rotation, and therefore we can grow cycles.
Our calendar is based on the lunar.
But surely we would have cycles.
Isn't it amazing?
We'd still have 4 major seasons without the moon.
You reckon?
I reckon we would, because we'd still spin.
But isn't it funny that the whole fragile nature of how we exist just managed to happen here, and therefore of all the animals that are on this planet, none of them evolved like us. Isn't that weird?
Okay.
And therefore,
I'll tell you something even weirder. I'll tell you something weirder. If we evolved as from the apes, or what is that theory of evolution? Charles Darwin's
theory of evolution. Yep.
Then where is all the evidence and records of like you got to evolve, right? Well, where are the evidence of all the other stages? So if we were apes, then where's the in between? There's no record of that whatsoever.
Well, we killed them. Surely,
what?
Well, as we became a little bit more advanced, we killed the older versions of ourselves, right? Obviously.
But that I think
there's got to be some record
adds into the question, is because we are nothing like this planet, and we do not exist like anything.
Okay, I'm going to put it out there. I've never
never
felt like I belonged on this planet. Now bear with me.
I will.
which, and I think a lot of people feel the same. If they truly take an inward journey, they go, hang on, I'm on this strange world. Well, why am I here? I don't feel like I belong here. And there's a bunch of theories. Well, maybe it's because... Where am I going with this?
Well, I've got to say that I can feel where you're going, but I am rather fond of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, that of course. You've been here for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, but not millions or billions.
Or who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? How far did the Sumerians go back?
So for those who don't
here's
know,
the question that I was going to come
Sumerian
up with. What conscious awareness or choice did I have to incarnate on this planet? If I can have so-called free will and choice, where I know what I ate for dinner last night, where I can make a plan for next week, I have this conscious free will decision. Well, did I have conscious free will decision to incarnate on this planet? And I'm speaking for all of us.
I don't know, but is that your ego talking?
Yeah, good point. But that's a question I ask myself. Why I can't answer that question.
Can't an
and
ego
it's a pretty big question.
It's a huge question, bro. But can't an ego be in balance to be part of our spirituality, though?
Yes, I totally agree, because it's yin and yang. It's the yang of ourselves, yang.
Yeah.
It's about fight or flight, because this is a fucking dangerous place. And if we do not have those instincts inside of us to survive, we will be wiped out.
Yeah.
So we have evolved the ego into something else. We go, well, shall I choose this energy drink over this energy drink? Because, this one might make me more virile and I might need this.
No, it does actually.
Also.
Be careful.
I know. But we've become more sophisticated perceivably in life or more bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I realized that the things, these topics we're raising could be unanswerable.
They are.
I was just going to say, can we answer Rob's question?
But what I enjoy is the dialogue and being able to just share this stuff, because this is the stuff that I think about and talk about, and I think it's topics that are interesting because it's about reality. It's the real stuff. It's getting right to the real stuff.
This is why we started the podcast, because Rob just wouldn't stop talking, and by the end of it, I said, "Bro, we should have hit record on that." Yeah. So you caught a plane to the US.
Oh yeah.
Hey, when are we going
to
take us from there, bro? Because I want to get to what you can see on the screen. We'll explain that soon. But
I was just in a different part of my life, and I was in my 30s. So, and I went there with the sort of feeling of, is this a place that I would want to be? And I wanted to see if I could create some opportunities for myself. I had nothing booked, no meetings or anything, just people to catch up with. And I went there and stayed with a friend of mine, a musician over there, and I spent 2-3 month sessions over there. And
how was the day-to-day life experience in the US as a Kiwi?
I was in North Hollywood, and it was really good. I didn't drive around. I would walk a lot of places. And
did you have a network over there? An existing network of anyone? Or?
Only one person, and the producer of Riverworld, who worked for Alliance Atlantis at that stage. But they were.
That's a big step, to go. Because I know.
Actually, you know what? There were lots of males. Like Will Wallace was there, and
I was going to say people. Yeah,
he's been on the show.
Dan Gillies was there, and I caught up with him at the time.
So,
and he'd just married Rachel Lee Cook at that time. And
any other Kiwis?
There was actually. I went to a party at Dan's place, and there were probably 10 New Zealand male actors there, and I thought I should just go back home and get work there because they're all here. There was like Manu Bennett, and there was like Dino Gorman, and then he had so many people that came around there, and it was great.
Amazing.
And it was just that when everyone was trying for pilot season, and I was different. I was going there to, for lack of a better term, man up, actually be okay on my own, and find out who I am on my own without.
That was your odyssey.
Yeah, it was. And because I had a perception of Los Angeles where I was going to end up through my ego period of time as an actor, wanting to become, I suppose, rich and famous at that stage. And I wanted to find out what it was all about and really get a sense of the feeling of the place. And it was big, and it was...
Yeah, what is your feeling of the place?
My first impression is I was so scared when I got there. I got in a cab and said I probably should have got another way to get to where I was going, but I spent $100 on a taxi just to get to, because I was just so scared to take any other form of public transport. I just wanted to I traveled on my own for X amount of hours, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just needed to, because I was carrying my trauma with me, to just feel different. I needed to go somewhere to feel different.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes the best thing to do, is just to take yourself out of your environment. Good things were happening back home. Don't get me wrong. I had a great circle of people, but I just was not developing enough as a human being.
So was it the right move to go?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I've come away with lifelong friends from there, and it was a spiritual, interesting time, and I grew. I knew I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to go back there necessarily, but I did 2 stints. So I did 2-3 months,
right?
And I lived off my visa. It was just I must have spent $20,000.
Sure, you could easily spend a lot.
And I just go out and buy like Cobb salads. I got like fat on Cobb salads,
How do you get fat in Cobb salads?
Exactly,
it's weird because you talk about Yeah, I mean, on my experience of LA, I've been there a few times. I vibe with it. That was probably the state I was in a very ego-driven state, and it spoke to all the things that I suppose, idolized, the fitness lifestyle, the
Beautiful
good-looking
place,
people,
beautiful
the
people.
vibe. But what got to me was this just energy of I wouldn't call it. It was positivity and optimism, because the people that I connected with, they were all like, "No, man," it was all about hooking people up and networking, and they were very supportive of what you were doing, which I found refreshing.
Yeah.
People wanted to uplift you. They were always successfully oriented, because I think it was just this culmination
Sort
of
of
a
the
collective.
opposite of our tall poppy.
Yeah, it was so. I found myself walking taller, being more confident, and because I had to fit in, I had to match it with the vibe around me. I thought, I can do this. Yeah, it's
Wow.
a really. And I remember just getting a swagger on. And I remember when I came back to New Zealand, I was chewing gum and I just had this swag going, because I had brought that energy back, which within like 2 hours it was gone.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had positive memories of my experience over there. And I even had deja vu experiences of being on a freeway and seeing Alvarado Street, which is actually a song and a Bruce Springsteen song. And I grew up listening to Springsteen, so there was just so many
Oh yeah, I used to
positive things. Yeah, yeah.
The free falling, like Tom Petty and that.
Yeah.
Walking down Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah,
and
it is.
actually
It's
sing,
iconic.
I'm
This
doing
is-
that
this
sort
is
of
it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or driving through Mulholland or Laurel Canyon and and stuff like that. So yeah,
It was
I
familiar.
agree.
It was familiar, and it didn't feel foreign. I felt I could live there.
Yeah, no, I agree
I
with
really
you.
did.
I think, but what I felt like, I came with no expectations. So I was incredibly attractive as a person. So I would just do one ritual for myself, and that is just go to the cafe, just around the corner from where I was, and just sit and write. And people just came up to me and started talking to me. And those are the people that just became friends. And what I did find is that because of the insecurity of the place, people do desperately want to connect.
Sure.
And because there's a lot of foreigners there.
Foreigners in their own country.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's really from LA? But they're often there to pursue their dreams. The cluster effect is what's actually really important there, and they rely on it a lot. We don't do it so much here in New Zealand, is that the success of one brings the cluster up. So, you're with a writer, you're with an editor, or you're with an actor, you help each other out to succeed. But I had people that I just say I was an actor, and I'd just done a few jobs, and I had no goal, I had no meetings, and they would be handing me scripts and stuff to read, and I think that was based on their own need to connect with people, and and just yarning a lot. And
But it's sort of I think it speaks as a compliment just to your openness and willingness to receive and connect with others without even trying. And I think people sense that.
Yeah, and this was also Fly the Conchords, so I was exceptionally exotic as a person as well, as a New Zealander. Their perception.
I wonder
of us
what it
was-
would have been like post Flight of the Conchords. Even better?
Oh, it would have been good because, Jermaine and I went to school together, so I could have actually
Did you?
drawn on that card. And gone,
Funny.
"Right, I'll just call Jermaine now and we'll have conversation." But
funny.
I think it's just that sometimes there's a lot to be said just to not come with any. I think even in this conversation, like coming here today, I have no pretense about why I'm here or what I'm going to talk about. It's just that I want
like you're reading my mind, bro.
I want to connect with people, and talk to people that are on the same path to want to connect, and really comes back down to feeling. I want to feel good.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I feel good.
I'm really vibing with what you're saying, actually. It gives me tingles because I had this sort of idea of these will be the things we talk about. And I have to do that because I have to have some sense of purpose because it can turn all to shit. And you go, well, what are we going to talk about? But inevitably, because it's so easy to talk with you, it just takes off. And I wonder if, though, you can take us to where you were.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, because I think where the story is now is close to where these images that were taken on an early 2000s Sony Cybershot camera, right?
Yeah.
And I want to introduce this to the people listening, but I'll let you do it, eh? And tell me which one you want to click open
So
first.
I was living in a condominium with my friend Johnny, and he was a muso. So I was just dossing on his couch, and he had gone off to do a gig. He had a cool job, like he was teaching the Stars. I'll just so give him. He was teaching the Stars kids to play guitar. So like he would teach the drummer's kid from Guns N' Roses.
Right.
He was there on an extreme ability visa. So he is a New Zealand, like quite an unknown New Zealand star in the music world. And so he was hustling and doing everything. And I love Johnny. He's a great guy. And we chat and play. But he'd gone off to a gig and I think would teach. And then I was there and I got up and went to the bathroom. And there was a lot of things that I was getting used to over there, like in the wildlife, like squirrels. I'd never come across squirrels before. And
are they gorgeous little creatures
they are
Satan
still.
spawn?
I still have a romantic notion of squirrels. Even when I was in the UK, I still have them, of them as well.
Is there a squirrel chapter in Muff?
I've never been a squirrel, but maybe that's my spirit animal.
Yeah.
So this is the preface about the squirrel to why, because I'd gone into that bathroom and the way the sun had hit it in the morning, it had cast a shadow on the window, and I thought it was the tail of a squirrel moving across the back, and I thought that's really erratic, but I don't understand squirrels, so maybe that's the way they move. And I just observed it for a really long period of time. Just this is the reflection on the glass, and I think most people wouldn't see it because they wouldn't have been open to it, but I went there open. And lots of strange things have happened because I've just been open to see. When things I hear and I see things on many levels and I hear things on many levels.
Because your reality isn't predefined.
No, it's not, and therefore I'm open to hear and see.
It's a really important lesson for everyone because we have a predefined reality of what is and what isn't and what exists, and you think that, and so therefore you stay within it.
That's right, and every moment is a gift.
Yeah.
So I was gifted this moment, and I was in this place. I was reading a lot of stuff too. Jordan Maxwell stuff and all that, and I was definitely
mind-opening stuff.
And I was in a conspiracy probably consciousness at that point, so I was probably paranoid as well. So whether I manifested this, who knows? Therefore, I might have created it, but therefore I did catch something on video.
Okay, so
these are videos.
There's two videos up on our screen. So, obviously, the listeners will not be able to see this, so you're going to have to take them through what we're looking at. Which one do you want me to open?
First, I'll take you through the whole the visual scenario versus audio wise. So I'll tell the story. So what I did is I took the fly screen off the window that was screwed on because I'd opened it up, and I'm watching this piece of what I perceive is microphone foam moving, and I'm going, that's a microphone. That's a microphone moving. So therefore my mind goes,
on the roof?
On the roof. Who's on the roof doing this? Are they lying on the roof making this move? And it just kept doing it. So what I did, you'll probably hear it, I just started to see if it was noise activated in regards to if it was mechanical. Because I'm fucking going, I've been living here for now X amount of weeks. What the fuck have they heard? What conversations have I had? Why is this happening? My ego said it was because of me and they were following me and all that shit, but it wasn't, Sure. But you'll hear I cough in it. I cough.
I did notice that.
To see if it was, and that was all just me going, because I didn't know if they knew that I knew, and it moves across with my reaction to the cough. So,
all right. So it's the one on the left, isn't it? The first one.
Yeah.
Okay. It's this thing that's sticking out. So we're looking.
Have a watch of that now, and
we're looking up at the roof from underneath, from inside. In this case, from the window of the bathroom.
Yes, actually, you can see the screen still on the window, the fly screen.
Oh yes, I can see that fly screen across it, and that looks like a boom mic.
Yeah, it looks like a boom mic.
Okay, I'm going to hit play. Rob's going to see this for the first time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
and
to
just
this.
take us through it. So it's a minute, this clip. Okay. You can see the boom mic above there. And it's just sitting there. Oh, you've coughed. That moves.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's moved, just slid across the top of the guttering.
There's a plane flying over as well.
Yeah.
It looks directional, that mic to me.
That looks like a directional mic.
So at this point, it's not moving full on, and then I cough again.
You're testing it.
Yeah, I'm just seeing how its reaction to me is, and then it goes.
Wow. See how fast that moved.
Yeah, and therefore I think you see my camera movement go.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit! Are they watching me that I've seen it, and therefore they pulled it out really, really quickly?
Yeah.
Did you have an impulse to go up and could you get on the roof?
No, there's no way. I was going to risk it at that point.
Yeah, but the next video gets up on the roof.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I figured out because at this stage I probably had big balls. I don't know. I was just in a stage of my life at that point. This is 2005.
Stay close to that mic, bro.
Oh, that's right. I was just trying to remember back. That was 2005, I think. I think it says on the video. But yeah, my headspace was I need to find out what this is, and I don't care.
Okay.
But I was not going to put myself at risk, and therefore I did have the element of someone who's watching me. So therefore I wanted to say, therefore, if you're watching me, I know that you must know that I know now.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take the screen off and I take the cyber shot to the broom.
Yeah.
And then press record and then put it up above to see the scope. If there's somebody up there, if
Great
not.
move.
Okay, and that's
Good tactic.
That's this video.
I wish I'd made it longer, but I think at that stage
But you couldn't see. You're
couldn't see.
periscoping this thing around on
Yeah,
the
you
broom,
don't know what the camera's actually.
and we're looking at stuff, and upon viewing it, you're going, "Oh my God, look at that!" But you don't know where to hold and where to move because you're underneath the eaves and you can't see.
I'm pulling it right up because the eaves coming up over
You invented the first selfie stick.
the first wooden.
I've never
selfie.
really thought of that, actually. Thank you.
That's good. Okay, here we go. Here's this one.
It's on its angle too. Can you hear it?
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
what's with that crazy crackling noise? It's like it's broadcasting something. Anyway, we're coming up the side of the building now, above the window, and we're looking now above the gutter, or about to, above, and there it is. Look at that. And it's not
It's
a
on its
boom
side.
after all. It's flat
It's flat
and
it goes
long like a
across,
snake, and there's many of them.
What the
And
hell is that?
And as you get close to it, you can hear all that crackling noise, like it's broadcasting. And that's amazing. And it can move. Look at that. It's like a snake,
Yeah.
a long snake spread across the surface of a roof.
Yeah.
And you've pulled it inside there.
That's a picture of it's me and the reflection of a younger version of myself.
Oh, there we go. Funny.
And so when you watched that back, what was going through your head?
Well, as now at my age, I'm terrified of it now. But back then I wasn't.
Back then.
Look at
Back
that.
then.
There's cabling to it as well. I'm just scrolling back through it.
Yeah.
And
and there's some sort of mechanism there that whether that's controlling it, scrolling it through itself.
That shape there.
It's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I did, Rob, is I actually I took the cyber shot off. I don't know what came up.
Off the world's first selfie stick.
And I smacked it.
Smacked what?
I went.
Oh, right.
To what? He was smacking the shit out of what must have been a specialized, I believe, it's a microphone that lays flat across a roof. And he essentially went boom, 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 smacking it real hard. You can imagine the guy who's
The whole team.
The whole
The
team,
van,
the van,
the
and
block.
the blacked out
Yep.
van across the road, and suddenly the guy's throwing his
Wow.
headphones on the desk, going, "What the hell
Well,
was
this
that?"
is what interesting happened after this because I haven't told you this because
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I was being followed and monitored after that because I would have a lot of people that would come up to the house and I'd look out the window and they were talking into their sleeves a lot.
What?
So they were like, just having full on conversations like this into their sleeves. And I would go out for walks with a big smile on my face as people would come back around the block again and I'd see them again, around the block again, and I would wave to them and I'd go, hi.
It's the Truman Show.
And then I had befriended somebody that I know, I'm not going to say who they are, and he said that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there was a monitoring scenario going on with something happening next door. So,
Okay, like
A surveillance operation?
So
Yes,
if we just talk,
potentially.
if we just talk about sort of known 3-letter agencies, so it could have been some kind of 3-letter agency,
that's
scoping out a drug deal or something.
Sure.
Like even if it's not like just something ordinary, it could have been ordinary. It could have been like we've got to get intelligence on something.
Yes, that's what I perceived, and I was just unfortunately there at the wrong time,
Right.
and therefore things like picking up the phone when I would call home, there were double clicks on them, so you would hear the
Back when everyone had landlines.
and I would use a calling card. You type it in and just go like that, and that was a bit. And of course, at that stage, I'm going, there's something much bigger. Everything that I had seen and read in movies and all that sort of stuff, I'm now living it.
Yeah.
I'm being monitored. I'm being watched. I've figured out something that's going on. So Dave probably going, who the hell is this guy? Because he's seen it and figured it out. They probably didn't realize that I just by accident saw the reflection.
Yeah, it's just
the
it's just
shadowing.
shoddy spymanship.
Yeah.
So they could have recruited
Shoddy.
me.
They could have. Well,
Yeah.
no, you'd
you
be pretty
never
good
know.
actually.
Maybe.
Yeah, you dot your I's and
But
cross your T's.
yet again, it comes back down to what the truth is and what that whole scenario was. And I was having, when we talked about a lot of number sequencing, I was getting a lot of the twos. 2 is definitely my number. I was seeing a lot on license plates. I was waking up at that time. I'm born on that time. It's 2nd, 74. So it's,
Rob gets this with a number 4.
Yeah,
He gets it.
triple 4 or combinations of 4. I woke up at 4:40 just the other night. Happens all the time. I've had strange things happen. Multiple. I won't bore you with the details, but I get it. The number 2, what does that signify to you? Do you think the energy of it? Or the significance? Because you have to interpret it some way.
you do. First of all, the mechanism of seeing it is the first thing. So you see it, and therefore you've made it a connection with yourself that is important to you. I was born on the 2nd of 2nd, 1974, and 7/4 make 11. So therefore it is 2.
Numerologically.
Therefore 222. My best man at my wedding was born on the same day as me, 2nd and 2nd. And I have just had scenarios of the number 2, and also as we're heading to 2012, it was kind of interesting as well. It'll be interesting what 222, 22 of the 2s, and the 2s will align.
Yeah.
But therefore, I have to keep in check the 2 things that are going on. No pun intended. Well, pun intended is that what is my ego trying to interpret in that, and therefore what is the truth? For therefore, I will see the license plate 222, or I will wake up at 2, and therefore I think coming back down to the mathematics of the universe, therefore the number 2 exists, and in this moment I see 2, therefore I am in the mathematical equation in the timeline. So I kind of go, whether you could say this was fate or this is a place, I am recognizing the mathematics of this moment. It has been, it has already happened, it is therefore I have just got a consciousness to it at this moment. It's happening around me. So it's like the fabric of the matrix is there with me in this moment.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing the
You're
fabric
seeing-
of the reality.
Yeah, that's
You've become conscious of what is your influencing factors, maybe.
So it was not maybe how I influence something, but just
How you influence or how the universe is influencing you?
how we are having a symbiotic relationship at this moment. Therefore, if we could say the face of God is winking at me, I'm winking back. Like it's just going.
Nice. Yeah.
We are therefore acknowledging each other in this time.
You mentioned timeline there. Do you want to take us and our listeners through your understanding and a little bit of education on? Is it not the butterfly effect?
The Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect. Yeah.
You've done research on the Mandela effect. Anyway,
We'll explain it for people who don't understand.
Okay, so the concept is that somewhere along the timeline, this is one theory, is that CERN, when they turn on the Hadron Collider, which was a man-made scenario that's happened in Switzerland, goes across 2 borders. It's underground. They are colliding atoms together to recreate the Big Bang Theory, and in its microcosm, and apparently it's controllable. That what had happened is, and that potentially in 2012 we did implode the universe, the one we were living in. They they collided like this. It actually doesn't exist, that one anymore. The layers of the universes, and so one of them collapsed on the other. So what we have here is a consciousness of two
convergence.
Yeah. So there's some people that remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, and
Around what time? If your memory...
Not my memory, because this is not
If you
mine.
were someone who remembered that.
This is why it was
What
called
time?
the Mandela effect, because this is where it started, because there were people that were saying he wasn't released, he died. I can't remember when.
Okay.
I would be
I have
misquoting.
a feeling it was in the 80s.
You could pull that up, I think.
I think we
it
can.
might be,
We'll bring it up.
it might be 80s. And therefore it started a movement of people, of collective consciousness,
Sure.
of people. And I have my own that I remember. One of the prime examples of people in our things is the Star Wars one, which is that, is Luke, I am your father. And people will say it's not. It is in the movie, no, I am your father. But we remember it as Luke, I am your father. So
That was great, by the way. Yeah, because I remember it as that as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore also other things like the Bernstein.
Yep.
Bernstein
Berenstain,
scenario.
yep,
Berenstain.
yep.
Yeah, that's the one. But my own personal one where it flipped in and out, which I've had in the last 2 years, and I've said to my wife, I said it's strange because I was 2000.
No. Yeah, maybe. In 2010, the shared false memory phenomenon
call it a
was
false
dubbed.
memory.
Yeah, that's what. Well, of course. I mean, this is coming from Wikipedia.
You know what I said before?
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
The
no.
first thing's truth. Do we believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the world is telling us it's false,
it's right
maybe
in your
you should,
face,
you should
isn't it?
check it.
Yep.
What it's referring. Sorry to interrupt, but what it's referring to is
2013.
is the Mandela effect is referred to as a false memory phenomenon. And it was brought about into our vernacular by the self-described paranormal consultant Fiona Broom. And I'm reading this, by the way, in reference to her false memory of the death of South African anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela in prison in the 1980s. So a lot of people believed that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s. He actually died in 2013. But what you're talking about is two sets of people exist in our world as two realities have collapsed in together.
Yes, because they're
and
so
half
close.
of them,
Yeah.
and we're like the same people, living virtually identical lives.
Yeah, so basically what happened is the consciousness got pushed out, like they slipped back into their own physical bodies, but there was two that collide. Their consciousness from the other one came into this present.
So that's like there would have been two Jeremys,
Yeah.
and then they've
Or
come
their
together,
memories,
and one Jeremy has memories.
Yeah, if a mathematical equation together, the other one just got pushed out.
Okay.
So therefore, all my mathematical memory things, which like Sex and the City, Sex and the City.
Sure.
So my own
The Bernstein bears, the Berenstain
but
bears.
this is my own unusual scenario, which I don't know if the theory about. I think it could oscillate between the two. A convergence of two that were kind of going in like that, like a wave in and out. Although I would say what would trump that is when actors who have worked on things misquote their own shows.
Sure. But what I was alluding to was, say if you have a DVD of Sex in the City or in the City, and it is printed, it's a physical thing. I have it, in storage in my basement or whatever, and I bring it out and it is different to what is online. Then I would have some kind of proof saying, hang on a minute.
Yeah, but
here it is.
It hasn't, because it's changed. All print has changed. But what I was saying
you
is
mean
that
you're telling me the print has changed as well?
All the print changes because that doesn't exist in that reality. I have two within an hour and in a month, and that was Sex and the City is how I remember it for years.
Yeah.
And then Fern and I my wife and I were arguing. She goes, "Well, why would it be called Sex and the City?" And I said, "Well, it was separate. They were two ideas." And then she says, "It's Sex in the City." I said, "No, it's not." And therefore, we checked it, and it was Sex in the City. And then a month later, I went back. We had the whole conversation, and it changed online. All the print media changed back to Sex and the City. And then I came back a month later, and it was
me
Sex.
because
What is it now? Find it.
Yeah.
Google it. Because it changed.
I will do the question.
You reminded me, there's a
Is
Queen
it-
song which people remember as well. And for the life of me, I can't remember the song, but people remember it, a certain lyric.
Oh, yeah. The Champions? Is it?
We are of the world at the end.
Yeah, and it's not there.
And it's not. Just
It's not there anymore.
And I go, but no, I remember it.
Yeah,
and
you
then,
sung it.
But then what if you get the artist saying, no, that's how we did it. Like how you're hearing it is exactly that. We did say of the world And this just blows my mind.
So it's saying there, the original series.
Okay, so the question posed on the internet is, when did Sex in the City become Sex and the City? And it says 2008. The original series premiered on HBO in 1998, ran for 6 seasons until 2004. The show was made into two films, Sex and the City in 2008 and Sex and the City 2 in 2010. That doesn't really answer the question. That is not dealing with the name change at all.
So what is it right now?
I think if we go Mandela effect,
But what is it? What are they recognising as?
they are saying Sex and the City.
Only last year it was Sex in the City.
Unbelievable.
In my consciousness.
And you had discussed it with someone, and they remembered your discussion, and then they acknowledged as a witness that it had changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Proponents of the Mandela effect are convinced that Sex and the City was once actually titled Sex in the City. They also claim logos and products names from Ford to Fruit Loops have changed. So it used to be. Was it spelled that way originally? F-R-O-O-T.
Not to me.
But then I'm not American, and it was an American
But therefore,
brand.
it depends where you are in the convergence, because I remember it as Sex and the City, but people are saying it's Sex in the City. But yet again, this is an interesting question about, am I mad, or like, I don't know, am I misunderstanding things?
Yeah, does our memory alter over time, or how can we rely on our memory?
Well, therefore, if we go down to quantum physics, if the collective, have we just all changed it mentally once we introduce the concept of Mandela effect?
It can be altered, as you say, a bit like in the movies Back to the Future, where the photo, where where they alter the timeline, the person reappears or fades out, according to what happened in that fabric of time. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, so the whole CERN thing, whether that's... oh
my God, this is just blowing my mind. You can go down a rabbit hole on this particular Sex and the City thing on the internet. People have got images here of both versions of it.
That's what I'm saying. What if you had a physical version
There's the Sex in the City eau de parfum, and there's the other Sex and the City complete series DVD box set.
Yeah. What if you have a Ford logo?
You couldn't screw that up, could you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unusual. But as I say, I mean, the idea, if we come back down to malevolence versus benevolent and what is happening, if man has constructed being able to rip the fabric of time through hadron colliders, what is the purpose? Also, CERN's an interesting thing in itself. What do you call it? The statue out the front of it is the statue of Kali, the god of war, and therefore it's an interesting scenario of what is happening. Why are they dealing with such incredibly? Are they creating wormholes, doors?
You mentioned Kali and the statue and. Everything has significance and everything has symbolism. We were talking about this in our last episode with Space Force and their logo, the NASA logo.
Yeah.
How the constellations, how everything in that image has meaning and is there for a reason. That when you look at the symbolic nature of it,
you're right.
You have to determine, is it benevolent? Is this
you've seen how the Space Force logo looks just like the Star Trek one, right?
Yeah.
I won't bring it up there, but
it's well, you could talk for days about it, but as I say, I don't have any opinions about this at all. I'm just talking from where my life leads me to experiences. So therefore I have a piece of information that just does not make sense to me. So therefore I might look at it and research it. And therefore how does this affect my life? And therefore I'm not as hungry for that information as I was when I was younger, because I think the truth for me is that all information is inside of me, within my sphere of what I need to know now. The information I'm getting from you, the information that I'm getting from you, what I'm getting on a day-to-day basis, rather than sometimes what I am pursuing. Sometimes I'm not in a state of pursuing in my life. I'm not reading a lot at the moment. I'm not watching a lot at the moment. I'm just in three-dimensional now.
You're trusting that what you need, the information, what you need will
is here now,
is here,
being manifested.
Yeah. And that's great, because you're allowing yourself to be present as well, which I think is so important. You touched on that earlier on, this ability to be present in the moment, because all possibilities reside in that present moment. And you become a container for it. But yeah, you also have to have the bandwidth to take in that information or have access to it as well. Because if you've got blinkers on, if you're closed, and if you're not open, this is just to anything, then you're not going to allow that in. And then, of course, you've got to be discerning about what you allow in.
And therefore, I kind
into your field of reality,
come back to this conversation and why we have it. And therefore, if we had the face of God, therefore would we have this conversation? Therefore, if we knew of where we come from and where we're going and our purpose of existence, the whole paradigm of thinking would be so different. These conversations of what if and it could be would not
We'd
exist.
already know. We'd
We
already
would know.
There would be no requirement to explore and have the adventures in life that we have, because the answers would be apparent. And so by taking that away from us, we are forced to go into self-exploration and outer exploration.
And therefore, the concept of the universe is that it expands. It moves off like that.
Yeah.
It just keeps expanding on itself on multiple mathematical equations. Therefore, for us not to know where we are, this could be a form of an answer of why we are here, and we have no picture or understand where we come from, allows the universe to expand and grow, like creating multiple mathematical equations as it just keeps expanding.
Well,
wow.
On that note, Jeremy, I think you have beautifully brought this
You
episode
have.
to an end. Thank you. Any final words before we sign off?
No, it's been really great talking to you guys, and I still have the trepidation of where my conversations come from. I have to keep my ego in check, whether that, you know what I mean? I just want to say that, even showing those videos to you, like I have never put them out online. I've never done that because there's still a part of me that has a fear of malevolence, of something that's greater than myself that I don't quite understand.
Right.
Sure.
That's working at a different level.
Yeah.
And therefore, I have respect for that, and I have to keep that in check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did a great job with all of that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Truly. It's been a real
Oh, thanks, Rob. I really appreciate it.
awesome experience. I've really enjoyed this
vibed.
conversation. Yeah, this has been amazing. It's really, you've opened my mind. My mind is just bending all over the place at the moment.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came. And
You'll have more talks, so that'd be fun.
Yeah,
please come
really
back for a part 2.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.